At least 174 people are dead after rioting and a stampede broke out in a football derby in Indonesia.
Brazil heads to the polls for its presidential election, and the vote seems to be between far-right incumbent Jair Bolsonaro and leftist frontrunner Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva.
Russian troops killed 24 people, including 13 children, in the town of Kirilivka, the day after Ukrainian troops reclaimed Lyman. The aftermath in Indonesia of one of the deadliest events to hit the football world. Riots broke out in a derby match in the city of Malang, in which panic ensued as fans clashed with police, causing panic and eventually a stampede. The death toll has now climbed to 174 people. The match was between rivals Arema and Persebaya Surabaya in the Kanjuruhan Stadium, where Persebaya had just won 3-2. Joko Widodo, Indonesian president, said, "I deeply regret this tragedy and I hope that this football tragedy will be the last in our country and there will be no more tragedies of humanity like this in the future." Indonesia's Football Association has since suspended the league until further notice. Arema fans ran onto the pitch to confront their team, angered by the result. Tear gas was fired at the crowd, which is banned by FIFA at football games. Many trying to flee the chaos were then crushed trying to escape through a bottlenecked exit. The death toll is likely to rise.
Crowds gathered in support of frontrunner Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva in Sao Paulo ahead of Brazil's presidential election on Sunday. The leftist former president Lula is ahead in the polls, with 2 surveys suggesting that he could get 50% or more of the vote. He just needs half of ballots plus 1 to avoid a runoff on October 30th. His main opponent, incumbent Jair Bolsonaro, is trailing behind him. He's aiming for a second round, when he could sway the support of anti-Lula voters who cast ballots for the 9 other candidates on Sunday. Though there are concerns about whether or not Bolsonaro will accept the election results if he loses. He has previously said that only God could remove him from office, and he has alleged fraud in the election without providing evidence, and the country's authorities are taking extra precautions.
All the planning, election security, security of the voting machines transportation, it's ready and planned.
Bolsonaro's fraud accusations have also raised fears of a Brazilian version of the U.S. Capitol Hill riots. 500,000 security force members are being deployed, and Washington says it was watching the election closely.
Another Ukrainian flag unfurled across reclaimed land. Russian Ministry of Defense announced that they are withdrawing from the town of Lyman in the face of Ukrainian forces. President Zelensky says the Ukrainian movement will continue. The Ukrainian flag is already in Lyman, Donetsk region. Fighting is still ongoing there, but there is no trace of any pseudo-referendums. It is logical for Ukraine, and for the enemy, there will be more and more such missteps. They have already started biting each other. They are looking for the culprits, blaming some generals for their failures. The withdrawal of troops is a setback for Moscow. Russian Defense Ministry Chief Igor Konashenkov said, despite the losses, having a significant superiority in forces means the enemy brought in reserves and continued the offensive in this direction. Due to the threat of encirclements, the Allied troops were withdrawn from the settlement of Krasny Lyman. Chechen leader Kadyrov was more direct, however. In a message on Telegram, he called for the use of low-yield nuclear weapons. But Moscow's offensive is still alive and well for us all to see. Here lies the aftermath of an attack on a civilian convoy in the town of Kirilivka. Authorities report 24 dead, including 13 children. They also accuse Russian troops of firing on them in the face of a confrontation with Ukrainian troops.
This is Igor Murashov, the head of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine. He's been blindfolded and detained by Russian forces, according to Kyiv's nuclear power agency, reigniting long-simmering fears over the plant's security. It's alleged the kidnapping took place shortly after Russian President Vladimir Putin signed the formal annexation documents of 4 Ukrainian regions it partially occupies. The International Atomic Energy Agency has said that Russia has told it that it detained Murshov temporarily to answer questions. For the 4th time in 2 years, Bulgarians will go to the polls on Sunday, overshadowed by the war in Ukraine, rising energy costs and wider galloping inflation. Pollsters expect turnout to be low due to voter fatigue. However, all hope hasn't been extinguished.
Well, I think it's quite unpredictable because we just started seeing some changes after all the 20 years of post-communist era. So I really hope that the people will vote for something new, for something different, and be brave.
Boyko Borisov, the former Prime Minister and heavyweight of the political scene for more than 10 years, is expected to make a comeback after he quit as PM in May 2021. Forecasters think that the results could lead to a fragmented parliament, one where pro-Russian groups may increase their representation. This political analyst said at previous polls the dividing line was for and against the model of governance. The main issues are now stabilisation, keeping prices low and dealing with the consequences of the war. The main division in the country is now between East and West on the political map, rather than between status quo and change. Whatever the results in Sunday's election, it's likely a coalition will have to be formed, one that is hopefully stronger than all of those in the last 2 years.
The Chilean capital Santiago was just one of many cities around the world where rallies were held on Saturday in solidarity with women in Iran. The movement was sparked by the death of Mahsa Amini, who died after being arrested by Iran's so-called morality police. Organisers said protests were being held in more than 150 cities, from Tokyo to San Francisco to London. One of the rallies was also in the Italian capital, Rome. With this regime, it's not possible to receive human rights, that's all. Now is the time for all of us to think that we have the ability to change this 43-year-long oppression. We don't want this government anymore. We don't want the Ayatollahs anymore. In Iran, protests were staged at many universities in anger at what happened to Mahsa Amini. The 22-year-old was detained for allegedly wearing her mandatory Islamic headscarf too loosely. She died in custody. The government denies any responsibility and labels protesters as rioters, arresting hundreds of them as a result.
Green carpet.
The Zurich Film Festival is one of the great autumn cinema events, offering a rich competition of films from Europe and elsewhere, as well as numerous previews and tributes in the presence of international stars. Liam Neeson and Diane Kruger were there this week, and 2 European actors were awarded with a Golden Eye: the French-English actress Charlotte Gainsbourg and the British Eddie Redmayne. This exhibition at the National Gallery in London features paintings by one of Europe's best-known figurative painters, Lucian Freud. It covers a lifetime of work, showing how Freud's paintings evolved over 70 years of practice. Throughout his long career, Freud sought to get closer to his models, to pierce their intimacy through the pigments of his paint. At Paris's Arab World Institute, an exhibition which offers, for the first time, a journey through the queer culture of the Arab world, also shaken by gender issues. "23 artists from Iran, Afghanistan, Morocco, Libya and more make up the exhibition called Habibi, The Revolutions of Love. This exhibition in Madrid is about 2 almost contemporary artists whose personalities and trajectories are certainly different, but biographically parallel and culturally close. In Julio González, Pablo Picasso and the dematerialization of sculpture, the joint work scene here is considered by many art historians to be the moment when iron sculpture was invented.